now.
Hello, and welcome to the Charles River Conservancy Parkland Show. My name is Renata from Tscharner. I'm the founder and president of the Charles River Conservancy, and today we are going to talk about bicycling. You can see it on his t-shirt. So bicycling is something I love along the Charles, but this is not just your regular bicycling, but this is bicycling with an urban AdvenTours bicycle. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, you are.
Thank
You do better
you.
than most hotel concierges, as a matter of fact.
Sorry?
You do better than most hotel concierges.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, so you probably have seen those bikes along the Charles and other places. But before we go there, let's look at the map that we always start with. And I know that you take your bicycle riders along the Charles.
Mm-hmm.
And the Charles River Conservancy, we want to make it easier for bicyclists to be along the Charles. It's one of the few places in the city where somebody who's not that experienced with riding on the road feels comfortable because it's separated from the traffic, except some intersections.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful. It's on the river. So we have more than 20 miles of riverside biking in the urban Charles, and your company makes that possible. So so this is what you would encounter. I know today you were out on the parklands.
Yes, indeed.
So tell us, before we kind of go to all the different options we have, give us a bit of a history of that company, of how did it come about?
So, Urban AdvenTours was started about almost 12 years ago now, when Andrew Prescott, our owner, who actually lives just down the way in Cambridgeport near the Charles River, he decided that he wanted to show people around Boston by bike. So he went to Cambridge Bicycle right down the street on Massachusetts Avenue, bought a fleet of bikes, and started a business. And he had 8 bikes, ran it out of a garage right in Cambridgeport, and that was how it all started. For a few years, 2004 to 2006, he really just worked out of that garage on people would meet him along the way at the location and then go from there. But he started piggybacking in 2006 and 2007 on top of other bike shops. Boston Bicycle was the first one, and then then it was Landry's Bicycles on Commonwealth Avenue in Brookline. They started just doing tours. It became more and more popular. As any business grows, the more people know about it, the more people are coming. Especially with Boston's booming tourism and cycling market, it really helped the business grow throughout the mid 2000s. In 2009. Andrew moved it to the north end, where it is now on Atlantic Avenue, 103 Atlantic Avenue.
And we'll talk about that location and all the other things are there.
Yeah.
And you're the general manager.
Yes, I started doing tours just about 5 years ago in 2010. Started off as a summer job. I was a college student at the time, and one thing leads to another, and here I am today. It's been a really wild ride, but I really had fun.
And it sounds like it's a fast-growing business.
Yes, very much so.
And I know I've sent many people there. Tomorrow actually I will be meeting a Japanese group of city planners.
That sounds cool.
And they say, we want to see all the parks in Boston and Cambridge. And I said, well, the best way to do that is to rent a bike. And then you can go to the Greenway, you can go to the Boston Common, you can come along the Charles, and we'll be visiting North Point Park and the skate park.
Oh, wonderful.
And so I did that recently also with a group of Swiss engineers.
Of course, with those folks, yeah.
And I think I spent 4 hours on the bike, and I just thought, wow, what a beautiful city we have. And they've really enjoyed that.
It's really, really quite wonderful.
And there were many in that group who were well over 70, but because they're Swiss, they all used to biking, so that was no problem.
Yeah, I had a couple of people from Holland today riding down the river, and it was a breeze. Love taking out European guests. They're so much fun to ride around with. Always know the cycling, and they're used to the cycling routes like we have along the river too.
Yeah. So let's go on with our images. This is the map that you hand out to everybody.
That's right.
And it's a very helpful map because it kind of gives different options. And tell us, so if somebody says, I want to go along the river, I want to go to Cambridge, what would you suggest to them?
Well, that's really our most common, it's our most common request. People with a family, younger children, or who just want to stay out of the traffic. That's one thing that our North End location's been really good for as well. We're located right around the middle-ish, there we go, yeah, that's a mouse cursor, right around there, where all the lines on the map converge.
Yeah.
And that red route, which goes off to the right.
So you go along Atlantic Avenue?
Yep, right up along Atlantic Avenue.
Yeah.
That's the number one way that we send people. It's got
Yeah.
a bike lane the whole way,
Yeah.
and then you're on the river within less than a mile.
Yeah.
It's very easy for people to follow the river from there. I'd say it's our most popular route for sure. Whether they go all the way to Harvard, beyond Harvard, or just to the Hatch Shell and back, it's really a wonderful thing to experience. And I mean, even the people who go a short distance, only to the Hatch Shell or only a little of the way, they always come back and they say, oh, I had a great time. You know, the river's so beautiful, the gorgeous park and the views is really it's one of the best ways to experience the city, and it's so easy.
Yeah. So, and many of them do get these T-shirts.
Yes,
I know all the Swiss people, they all went home with their T-shirt. So, here is a picture on the dock here.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty big group. How big can your groups be?
We can have fairly large groups. We can have up to 25, 30, or even 40
Wow.
people. This year's 4th of July tour, which is historically our busiest day, that was actually the first day in 2010 that I started, was the 4th of July. This year we had 45 people on a tour.
Wow.
And you just become you're basically a gigantic vehicle moving through the streets.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful. Our average size of groups is between about 15 and 25.
Yeah. So, could somebody come in as an individual, or if a family, can they just rent the bikes or do it by themselves?
Absolutely.
So they can.
Yes. We really like to be flexible with people, whether they want to take a tour with us or if they want to, or they just want to go off on their own. I would say it's probably a 50-50 split between people who want to take a tour that's guided and people who just want to experience the sites on their own and take their time. Sometimes people are apprehensive about riding on the streets, obviously, and in that case I usually recommend that people rent a bike so that they can take it at their own pace. If they get flustered or if they're uncomfortable, they can stop more easily without being worried about holding up a group or things like that. And most of the time on groups, on a large tour like we're seeing here, even if people are not necessarily who you'd expect to be comfortable, or they may even have been very, very scared at the beginning, most people at the end of the tour, at this point, which is really about a quarter of the way into the tour when we reach the river, they're getting used to it and they're realizing this is actually very easy, especially since they're riding in a large group like that.
Yeah, yeah. And you have set times
Yes.
during the day when you go for certain tours?
Yes, our tours run at 10 a.m. every day. 2 p.m. most days throughout the summertime. We stop that as the light gets lower in the fall and winter. And then at 6 p.m. in the summertime, May through September. That runs on the weekends. That's a shorter tour. It's only about an hour and a half, whereas our 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock tours are about a 2.5 to 3 hour tour.
Wow.
In the fall, we actually run an even longer one, the Emerald Necklace and Fall Foliage Tour, which is at 10 a.m. select days. It runs alternate of our City View Tour, which is our flagship tour, and that one shows off the Emerald Necklace parks and the beautiful fall foliage. It's about 15 to 20 mile ride, and it's a little bit longer, about 4 hours of riding. So that's definitely, it's more geared towards your experienced riders or people who really want to experience the beauty of the parks and take their time a little bit longer on the bike. But that one is definitely a very popular tour for us, especially as we get into the fall season with the beautiful colors coming out on the trees. But throughout the most of the year, the City View Tour, which is what we're seeing here on the river here, is really that's our flagship tour. It's the one that's the most popular, but we do have many others, tours of Cambridge, tours for families, and the Emerald Necklace Tour, like I just mentioned.
Well, we'll see the map later on. Do you also carry smaller bikes for kids?
Yes, we have bikes for pretty much anybody. With Massachusetts state law, children under 1 are not allowed to ride on any bike at all.
Under
of
1?
course, under 1 year of age, you can't ride on a bike at all. But we do have
No snugglies, no backpacks.
No snugglies, no backpacks. We have had requests, and I unfortunately have to turn the appeal down. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, ma'am, like your child can't go. But we have baby seats for the little ones. We have kids bikes. We have trailer bikes, which are like a third wheel that hang off the back of an adult's bike.
Oh, it's like a tricycle?
Sort of. It's more like a tag along, like a half of a bike that trails along.
Oh, it's not for balance. It's more to carry somebody else?
Yes, it's sort of like training wheels, but it's actually attached to an adult's bike. It's a little hard to explain, but I think there might actually be a photo in here a little bit later of one. I guess not. It's sort of like a tandem bicycle, but instead of we don't rent out children's bike with training wheels,
No.
because oftentimes kids who are too young to ride their bike on their own will have a hard time keeping up with even their parents on a city ride. So we have the trailer bike for kids who are too young or unable to ride their own bike but want to get the experience as well.
Yeah.
And that's often very popular.
Yeah, yeah. So here is obviously one of the very picturesque areas.
Yeah, beautiful esplanade.
Yeah, yeah. And so here, and I see everybody's wearing a helmet.
Yes, our tours do require helmets.
You require that. So that in a way is a difference, differentiates what you do to Hubway.
Yes, of course.
And I can imagine when Hubway came on board, and for those of you who do not know Hubway, this is what you see in the street, the bikes you rent for half an hour. I could imagine that you were worried, but I can imagine that this now is no longer an issue.
Yeah, when Hubway first came out, I think it was 2009 now. Excuse me, 2011 the Hubway came out. When Hubway first launched, it really took a big bite out of our rental business. We went from renting about as many as 50 or even 75 bikes a day to renting less than 20 on average.
Wow.
So it was a huge hit. But of course, prior to that, we were really the only rental business in town. Hubway is a really great resource for people who just need to get from point A to point B easily.
A lot of people who work in the city use it.
Yes, and it's a fantastic resource for that. Unfortunately, when Hubway first came out, there wasn't people didn't understand what it was necessarily. Oftentimes people actually thought that it was an extension of our business, which of course led to some confusing phone calls. But after a couple, the next year it really kind of evened out, and now I would say it barely impacts our business at all. And if anything, we really love Hubway. We think it's a great way to get out, and people who are on their way to us, they're like, oh, can I just hop on one of the city bikes and get to you? It's like, yeah, sure, no problem. There's a station not a block away, and it's very easy for them to just get around the city by bike, which in the end is what we all really want. We just want more people riding on bikes in the city.
Because the moment you go over half an hour, it starts to get charged and more expensive. And I can imagine if you would ride a Hubway bike for 4 hours, it probably ends up being more expensive than your bikes.
Yep, that's actually true. After where it evens out, of course, we actually have a chart on our website about this because we get so many questions about it. We have a chart. It evens out around 3.5 to 4 hours is where, with taxes and fees and things, it actually becomes about even right there. Of course, I always recommend that people take our bikes because we provide helmets for free with a rental. We provide locks for free with a rental. We provide maps for free with a rental. A water bottle. So if you really want to explore the city, then I think that our product is a little bit better for someone who wants to get out and ride. But if you're just getting from downtown to Cambridge, take a Hubway because it's easy, it's carefree. You can drop it in the station when you get there, and it's like you don't even have a bike to worry about. So it's fantastic for that sense.
I think there's definitely room for both.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think as we've seen, the more bikes that are on the road, the safer it is for everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
So that is really wonderful. Now, I have a picture here of something of the bike path of the future. So this is a rendering that the Charles River Conservancy commissioned of how we would like to see the Anderson Bridge once it's restored. And Urban AdvenTours, together with 52 other organizations and 52 elected officials, support that effort. And after 5 years of advocacy, Mass DOT who is in charge of the bridges and the bridge renovations, agreed to go ahead with the planning. So this planning process is moving forward, and so we hope might not look exactly like that, because the designers need to fine-tune the design. But this means you don't have to go up to the intersection, which I could imagine right now must be very tricky with the construction.
That intersection is a bit of a nightmare, to be perfectly honest. We used to do a tour that would go all the way to the JFK Bridge and cross the JFK Bridge.
The Anderson Bridge.
Excuse me.
That's
the
right. It's
Anderson
a
Bridge.
JFK.
Sorry, it's JFK Street. It's the
Yeah.
Anderson Bridge, of course. The Anderson Bridge there. And it is such a mess. It's next to impossible to safely guide people across that bridge. I mean, even as an experienced cyclist, I don't like going across that bridge since there's so much construction there. But fortunately, with the Weeks Foot Bridge now not having stairs on the other side, we are able to take tours that way and then cross the Weeks Foot Bridge instead. But once, when this underpass system is made, it is going to be revolutionary for Boston cyclists. I used to commute on that way every day when I lived in Brighton. I used to live in Brighton about 3 years ago, and when I was riding, that intersection, I would just, you stop, you wait for the light, maybe people are running the light, and then you just have to sit there and like wonder, oh my God, how much time have I wasted at this intersection?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it is. So the first one will be the Anderson Bridge. And then the other ones will be Western Avenue and River Street. And River Street is really bad. It has no lights, no crosswalk, nothing.
Yeah.
So
I took a tour earlier today on that side, the Boston side of the river on River Street, and I had a gentleman listening to headphones just walked right out, and he got a little honked at, and he got a little bit of a boost through the crosswalk.
Yeah.
It's dangerous for anybody because there's no light signal, and it's just very difficult to know, like, is it safe to cross? Is it okay to cross? Because there's a crosswalk, but there's no actual light.
Well, and the crosswalk is not lined up.
Oh, it's terrible.
With
with the curb cut.
No.
It's awful.
It is awful. All right, well, we all agree on that. Now, you obviously also go out in bad weather.
Of course.
But I guess people have to bring their own rain gear, or do you have?
We do have rain gear. We have a full bike shop if people would like to purchase rain gear, and then we have, of course, disposable ponchos that come along. We carry disposable ponchos on every tour, just in case that were to happen. So it's it's a good thing to have, and we feel like it's the right thing to do as well. But some of my most memorable tours that I've taken out have been in bad weather, rain. It even snowed one time. And it was a lot of fun.
Well, snow, as long as it's not on the ground.
Yeah, of course.
But we, as you know, the Charles River Conservancy, we have 2,000 volunteers a year, and we always ask the groups, do you want to go out in the rain as well? And we encourage them because it creates amazing memories. I mean, everybody feels great because you're out there.
you got through it all.
You get dirty, you get happy, and so it's funny of how bad weather. If the gear is good, it's just as easy.
It's
and
simple.
Yeah.
We actually earlier this year we rode with a corporate tour who just opened a new office in Charlestown. They wanted to kick it off with a bike ride, and the morning of, it was pouring rain and 65 degrees. And I called up the organizer and I said, "Are we still on?" He said, "Yeah, of course, we're tough." I was like, okay. So we rode from Boston to Concord along Paul Revere's ride the whole way in pouring rain, freezing weather, and we had an absolute blast. I think it really made some memories. They're doing it again next year, so it must have been a good impression.
Oh gosh, they will never forget that ride.
For sure.
Now, so I want to show this map again because you mentioned, the tour that starts in the north end and goes along the river. But tell us a little bit about the other tours. There is one, a harbor tour, and so tell us. Maybe you can want to use the mouse and talk about the other tours.
So the Red Route, like I mentioned before, is our family-friendly tour. It's the easiest tour for people who are not really comfortable on bikes, especially on city streets. It stays off the city streets as much as possible, and it's very easy to follow. Whoops.
Okay,
My
let's
mistake,
go
sorry.
back. Yeah.
And then on the blue route, we have a really fantastic tour, which is the City View Tour. It's our flagship tour that shows all the most important sites in the city. And then there is...
List some of them. So
There
you
it is.
go.
We
go along the
basically,
common
yep,
and
go along the. We actually start on the same route as the tour to Boston along the river, and then we cut into Fenway Park, Boston
Okay.
University. We go to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum down here in Fenway. We go to the Museum of Fine Arts Northeastern, the Christian Science Center, which of course is beautiful. The South End neighborhood, Copley Square, you can't miss that one. The Commonwealth Avenue Mall, green spaces. Then we ride by the Boston Common and the Boston Public Gardens, which of course are unfortunately restricted to cycling for the sake of pedestrians. But we go right by the beautiful views along Boylston Street, and then we go through Downtown Crossing to the end of the tour, back in the North End in the harbor. That's our most famous tour, the flagship tour. And then, of course, we do have the Cambridge tour, which I actually did earlier today, which goes through MIT up to Harvard Square, Harvard Yard. Really, it's great for people who want to see the other side of the river, to want to see Cambridge, or maybe who have done our tours in the years past and want something a little bit different. That's a lot of fun. And then our evening tour in the summertime is the Harbor Tour, or our Bikes at Night route, which goes down into South Boston down here, Fort Point neighborhood, shows off the newest area of the city. That's really, of course, the up-and-coming, the Innovation District, they're calling it, of course. So that's just a little bit of a different side of things. And going down there at sunset time, you get a beautiful view of the city at sunset, with the sun setting behind the downtown skyline and the cool, crisp air, seeing all the boats going out for cruises in the evening. It's really, really wonderful.
Yeah. And then you have one more here, which might be a bit hard to see, the
Yeah.
yellow tour, which goes into the Emerald Necklace.
That's the Emerald Necklace down there.
Yeah.
That one, of course, the Emerald Necklace begins, in case you don't know, at the Boston Common, then the Public Garden, the Commonwealth Avenue Mall, into the Fenway, the Riverway, the Jamaica Way, the Olmsted Parks, all the way down to Franklin Park in Jamaica Plain in Roxbury. Really, really beautiful parks designed by Frederick Law Olmsted there. And then the Southwest Corridor bike path coming up from Forest Hills all the way back into the city is the tail end of that tour. And of course that is, I think, really important to show off to tourists and locals alike, because it's such an amazing resource for cycling into the city. If you're not comfortable riding on streets, but you want to try riding to work, and you live in the Jamaica Plain, Dorchester, Roxbury neighborhoods, it can be very easy and beneficial to ride up to the Southwest Corridor, and then you get a straight shot right into downtown Boston on that Southwest Corridor bike path, which is beautiful in its own right, too.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Well, if you just joined us, this is the Charles River Conservancy Parkland Show, and this is about urban adventure biking. So this show will then be on YouTube, as well as many other shows about swimming in the Charles, about skate park, which will be a new destination for you. As you might have seen, it's under construction.
I saw it today. It looks really good. It's coming along.
It's coming along, so that will be a major destination for you and for many others. And so there are shows on many different topics on YouTube by the Charles River Conservancy. But let's go back to your bike shop.
Yes.
So this is in the North End, and so everybody that is fitted out. Is that a tandem there?
Yes, that's 2 tandems right there.
2 tandems,
Yeah.
all right.
We really have everything at the shop, from tandems like you see here to the regular bikes that you see in the background here. We really have something for everybody at the shop, whether you're just getting into cycling, or you have some friends in town and you want to take them out on a ride, or you want to put some miles down. We have everything up to high-end road bikes, high-end mountain bikes for rent. And if there's something that we don't have, well, maybe we can get it.
Yeah.
It's always a challenge to serve everybody, but we like to think that we have almost all of our bases covered and really can find something to fit every customer.
Yeah, and you might recognize that building
That's the
on
Mercantile.
Atlantic Avenue. That's a sign of where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this is wonderful. I'm glad you could come.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Thank you for
put
having
up your website, how to contact you. And so if you are thinking that you might like to explore biking in the city, try an Urban AdvenTours, or with your company, go and rent some bikes and have an outing. I think this is a great, sometimes we combine, when corporations come to us who want to do volunteer events, we suggest that they might add a bike tour or add a picnic. So that's really a wonderful way to have an outing. So this is your contact information, and that's your truck, and that's where you go and retrieve bikes or transport bikes.
Precisely. We can deliver bicycles up to 25 at a time in that bus. It's actually powered by vegetable oil. It's a converted biodiesel engine. It's an old postal truck that our owner Andrew picked up in early 2000s, and it's bright green. You might have seen it parked around Cambridgeport or just around your neighborhood. We do events, we do hotel delivery or home delivery and pickup. So
Great.
if you
For
need
parties.
some bikes, for parties.
And is that part of your harbor to harbor tour?
Yes, that's part
MIT.
of the night tour. Yep,
Yeah,
that's the MIT.
Yeah.
Sometimes on the night tour, it depends on how our guests are feeling. If we have guests who are less experienced on a bike, we may go to the river instead of down to the harbor to avoid traffic. Last week, of course, with the fire at South Station on Friday, I believe it was, we had to go to the river instead of to the harbor because there was a roadblock down the river.
Right.
But Charles River, the sunset is absolutely beautiful. So it's an unforgettable sight.
All right, Craig. Well, thank you for coming and keep biking and showing off our wonderful city to our tourists and to people in town. We're very lucky to have this facility that you offer. And I'm going to put now the website of the Charles River Conservancy up so you can contact us for our programs, join up on our email, go to our website. We have a monthly email that goes out about news, and I hope to see you on the river on the bike.
Indeed.